This is what you need to know before you're buying vintage watches. Welcome back. I am so happy to be here. Adrian and Andrew are here, and
howdy.
This is so nice to be here.
It's just the simple things, isn't it?
Yeah, it
the
is.
Little things.
It's nice to be kind of in this kind of environment, and we've got Marcus doing his stuff, and Darren.
Big Daz,
I mean,
the
like,
original crew.
I mean, like, but we've also got you.
We do.
And what I would say is thank you so much for being a part of this community and being part of us and chatting to us and being part of our family. So thank you so much. I am kind of wanting to do a little bit of a conversation because this is my kind of wheelhouse. I feel like it's about effing time that we talk about vintage watches. But really...
It was just so lovely the way you went into it. It was seductive.
Really, for me, it's about vintage watches. I feel like we need to be talking about the pitfalls, the things that we should know about vintage watches. But just the second that we're rolling into that, what's on our wrist? What is on your wrist, Adrian?
I have got my IWC Mark 20 on a Bark and Jack. Beautiful shell cord over leather strap.
Mark 20.
This is Mark 20, and
I love the Mark 20.
A little bit obsessed. So I was.
Are you obsessed?
Eyeing up the Mark 18 for so long because I couldn't decide between the Spitfire or the Mark 18, and it took so long to decide that the Mark 20 came out. I thought, all right, cool. That's
oh, hello.
Decisions made.
This is the benefit of choice paralysis.
Yeah, pretty cool.
No, but I love it. But you waited out. That was probably actually a really good thing because you waited out for a better watch.
A better watch.
Andrew, what do you got on your wrist? Oh no! That's not a watch.
That's a Whoop, and I want Whoop to give me a free one or like an extra year or something.
Is that how it works? IWC, can I have a free?
Maybe with a Whoop, but not with an IWC. I'm wearing the Doxa Sub 600T Time and Tide Pacific Edition, which has a colour of blue that is matched to the Pacific Ocean that Australia enjoys, especially on my delightful eastern coast.
Are you Grand Seiko now or something? What's with the?
What's that? Oh, scratched titanium.
I love the little thing.
The little fish logo. Yeah. No, look, it's a big boy watch, but because of the titanium, it doesn't wear quite as.
Is it big? It doesn't look big.
Oh, it's thick. It's a thick boy. 600 meters water resistance, but yeah. Look at that. It's quite a bit.
I love this as well. I love just the off center. It's unusual. It's cool.
Like an NH35 Seiko movement with that crown down there, but it is not an NH35. So yeah, this is a watch that it's just one of those summer watches.
Belt buckle.
Bit of a tan. It's going to cop any ocean treatment. You could dive in this properly. So.
I have got the Hoya Audi Sport Chrono.
Oh,
now,
George.
this, for me, when
George. If you see us looking over here, it's because there's a monitor here.
Or randomly looking off into the corner.
I know.
Because we've got this massive
Look at that.
Oh, wow. And you have dropped
Oranges,
some heat already in the Uglies episode with the other Hoya that was not ugly.
But look at that. It is so nice. Now,
Is it meant to be a plane on that orange tip of the hand? Is that meant to be a plane?
Yeah, it looks like a plane.
So cool.
The thing about this is I've just realised recently that these have gone up quite massively in price. But I bought this for nothing.
Sad.
And
what do you mean nothing when you say nothing? Like
around £1,000.
Right.
How much now?
I don't, quite a lot. I was Googling it recently and I was like, wow. You can Google it, you can see, but it was about £1,000 that I brought it.
Has that got a sticker on the back, Adrian? Did I say that again? Yep. George, where do you get these NOSs?
No. This is my guys.
That's been applied, okay.
This is my guys proving that they'd actually done something.
Put a sticker on.
We've done some work, boss.
Yeah, exactly.
Look,
Put a sticker on it.
But this is where, when we talk about vintage, why I wanted to wear this for vintage is because you think about the discoveries of vintage.
If you need a strap that fits, George, just give me a shout at barkandjack.com.
Have you got any green straps that are really like that?
Absolutely.
Does he? What's the lug width?
Fuck knows.
20.
It looks like 22.
Yeah, so that's. I just found this. It had a bracelet on it, and it was too tight, so I put a green thing on it.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
And I really like it on the green, and it's one of those that I wear. But what I'm talking about vintage, what I wanted to kind of understand, Andrew, you're kind of on the fence on vintage. I am a vintage geek, unless it's a limited edition or a collaboration modern watch, and you are kind of getting really into.
Well, my
the
journey
idea of it.
started with vintage. I got into watches through vintage watches. It was my obsession was vintage watches, and I went through a whole host of vintage, but I just kept damaging them, and I thought I can't. I need watches that can withstand my stupidity, and so then I had to go modern. But yeah, I want to go back because.
By the way, Adrian's still seeking a watch that can withstand his
yeah. The Omega Seamaster 8800 movement still can't do it. that 15,000 gal still isn't strong enough.
I mean, you really need what was that IWC one that's shock absorbent from anything? You need that one that's got a core inside of a core inside of a core.
And he threw it. I think it survived Toto Wolff, so I think
They're being used as hammers apparently. I didn't know. I wasn't in instructions.
But Andrew, just kind of give us the pitfalls, the things that scare you about vintage, the things that really make you kind of your toes curl.
Okay, well, there's many, but the main one is just the big hidden elephant in the room, which goes around and stomps on all your vintage watches and crushes them, is that you should not buy a vintage watch that you can't afford to immediately service, and then have some extra money in store for if there's something wrong, because it will cost you circa €1,000 to have let's just say a name brand watch serviced, and even a non-name brand. And this is the thing: watchmakers are so thin on the ground now. Great service people for watches are so thin on the ground that you're paying for their time at a very high rate, whether it's a Seagull movement or a Patek.
And it's not just the cost; it's the time it takes to do it.
Yes.
I was looking at that. This is going back about 7-8 years now, but I was looking at a Vacheron Constantin Overseas, which sounds extravagant now, but back then it was like you pick one up for about $5,000, and I was going to do it, and then I thought that there was this little thing in the back of my head to say, let's see what the ongoing costs are going to be. And if I bought this watch, it's likely that this 10, 12-year-old watch would need a service. How much is that going to be? Minimum, the basic, just for Vacheron to look at it, was, I think, £1,200. Just for them to look at it.
Take the back off.
Just take the back off. And then
and
on
maybe
top of
apply
that,
some lubricants and maybe do a gasket here or there, maybe not even.
exactly. So on top of that, you've got the crystal and all the parts that they're going to want to change.
Yes. So then you get a thing back saying, we would recommend this.
Yeah, so suddenly this £5,000 watch is now
So that's
$7,000,
what scares me. I just feel like maybe this is the ultimate example of, unless you're somewhat of an absolute trained and, a veteran of it, that there's just no bargains in vintage.
Okay.
Are there really vintage bargains? Is my question.
I'm just going to say to both of you, old things don't work like modern watches. Old watches don't. So don't put exactly the same remit on
Expectation.
That is such a good point,
on
George.
a vintage watch. It's the same with vintage cars. You see, and this is the great thing, you see on vintage cars, why does everyone put a thumbs up to someone else that's broken down on the side of the road in another vintage car? The reason is because they know 1 out of 10 times they're going to be in the same place. Sometimes they'll come and park behind you and say, hey, do you need some jumper cables? Do you need... Because you're in a vintage car, don't imagine it's going to work the same as a modern car. If you're wanting to have a modern watch, do what I do on modern watches. Get the closest you can get to scarcity is these limited editions. Or do this scenario and just go, it's not going to be precise to the second that, it's down a minute every day. Well, fucking move it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, you tell the time by your phone anyway.
Don't let me rain on the parade, George, because this is definitely an episode where we're giving people advice on their own personal rules.
This point is perfect, and I wish I had this point in my head of don't look at a vintage watch. It sounds obvious now, and I feel stupid saying it, but don't look at a vintage watch through the eyes of a modern watch. And this is exactly, I had a Submariner 5513 because I wanted that vintage looking sub, and I got that vintage looking sub and suddenly picked it up and realised how feather-light this thing was, how delicate. And people go, oh, but back in the day, people used it to go diving with. I'm like, yeah, but you wouldn't do that now. back in the day, you'd take a
back in the
Mark
day-
1 Land Rover Defender off road. Like, you wouldn't do it now.
But back in the day, you would have a bubble back for swimming.
yeah, sure.
You know,
yeah.
and now you're like, oh, it can't even go near water. It
Yeah.
can't even go near steam.
But this Submariner, this hefty watch, what should be a hefty watch, felt really delicate, and I kept hitting it on stuff, and the bezel kept falling off and scratching the glass and all that. So
Yeah.
I thought, this isn't for me. But it's because I was looking at it through the eyes of wanting a vintage-looking watch, but with, Tudor fixed that with the Black Bay 58.
Yeah.
I should have got a Black Bay 58. It
The
wasn't out then,
disparity
but
between, but what we're talking about there is the disparity in price between the vintage watch and the modern watch. What you're saving on is also what you're paying for.
Sure. Yeah.
Which is
Sometimes.
yeah, but then again, this is an episode that by the end of this, you hopefully have squeezed the best bits of advice out of all three of
Yeah.
us, because there are rules that I still follow and I will still buy vintage. But in general, and I think if we look at people, celebrities that are constantly being called out for having fake watches, we also see part of the problem, which is that due to the burgeoning kind of awareness of watches and the fact that now it's a hustler's game. There's a lot of bad actors in this industry
Profit.
now.
People want to make profit out of it.
There's a lot of profiteers and there's a lot of racketeering going on in watches. Therefore, it's become even more dangerous because even at the level of, back in the day, there might be people that were making replicas of really famous vintage watches. Now it goes down to quite obscure watches as well. So there's a lot of things to be afraid of. But you pointed me out as being a bit of a fearmonger and someone who is at the fearful and negative end of the spectrum, because
No, but it's quite right, because this is kind of
represents the
you know,
whole.
I
'Cause you're
kind of feel like
wildly
you're on two
enthusiastic.
sides of if I kind of see the scales.
Yeah.
There's that thing of justice scales, and here's the blind person in the middle, and here's the two
I
things.
think Adrian's in the middle. I think you and I are at opposite ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, because but
So
at
I
the
should
same
be there,
time,
and then you.
So George, help us. Help me be less afraid. Help tip Adrian even more down, because I feel like you have the potential to be
Oh no,
absolute addict.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I'm done with modern, because there's still modern watches I want to get, but I 100% want to dive down the vintage route, especially after seeing, George, your weird and wonderful stuff. I'm inspired by that. I'm motivated to go explore.
What I would say to you is, I sold one watch and brought tons of watches out of that one watch. And it was a serious watch, but it wasn't a really serious. It wasn't like
George, come on, tell the people, please.
So I sold a Patek Philippe Nautilus at a very good time, and I purchased X amount of watches. Now,
Did you say 40?
I said a few.
You said 40.
No, but I brought, but it was on a voyage of discovery. Voyage of discovery of each watch. There is a reason why I brought each watch. What I'm surprised about is there is other batshit crazy people like me out there that love these things. And what I would say to you about the discovery of this understanding of something that doesn't work, or I honestly, there's so many watches that don't work. That I put it on and I'm like going, and someone goes, "Oh, you're a watchmaker. Why isn't it working?" Honestly, it doesn't work. Okay, okay, fine. I've got to go and get this done, but I love the watch. I love the design. I mean, I can show you right now. I go through 2 or 3. I'm also going to show you some stuff that I think are sleepers, because I think to myself that's something else that in the world of watches, every brand has got sleepers. They've got things that no one really knows they did it. I brought up for one of our, I think it was our therapy session, that and what I talk about our therapy session, we have this live session every other week. So we have this going out live, this going out one week, and then the therapy session going out. And I brought up a Zenith, and this was a Surf Zenith. Now, why I'm kind of got my little things, I brought this Surf Zenith. Now, look at that dial. Look at it's a buttery.
It's almost like a tiger eye.
And this is just such a cool Zenith.
That is really
That
cool.
case is crispy as well.
And you think,
Ooh,
and
nice polishing. You got a radial brush on that bezel. It's cool.
you look at this and you go, isn't that cool?
Wow, that's a proper bubble back.
And so why I'm saying to you, something like that, I didn't know that Zenith did that. So on something like that, that is worth nothing. That was an eBay purchase. I think it was 300 quid. Now I've got a Zenith for 300 quid.
Yeah.
And actually, it's
And how cool is it?
I called this the bezel. It's not. It's actually the case.
Yeah.
This radial brush, that it reminds me of the.
Oh, the Rolex Explorer 2 has that radial brush.
Yeah, no, of the Octo Finissimo.
Oh, right.
Has the bezel that has this exact same radial brush on it. But look at that brown. What is that
Yeah.
actually comprised of? It really looks like a tiger eye stone or something, doesn't it?
Really cool.
So, but you think about that.
I love that.
300 quid.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, so when I look at it, so does it work 100%? Do I have to, sort it out once every blue moon? Yeah, but for 300 quid, I don't.
Yeah, that's fine.
Or something like this. This is a Zenith, another Zenith, the Autosport. Look at that. Look at that case. Look at the idea. Now, the other thing is, if you see, I've put great straps on this, and I love changing straps. I also, you can get very, very good straps out there. Bark and Jack do the best. But what I would say to you is, looking at this is a great watch. You look at that dial.
Yeah, that is cool.
And you've got something unusual. Now, what I'm saying to you both on this side is, why spend X amount going, oh, I need a watch that does this or this or this?
Or
you can tell.
if you're spending 10 grand on a vintage watch, if it goes wrong.
No, but don't be. What I would say on that is, discover here. Discover in the lower end with the great brands. Discover.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Find. You will then start going, oh, I really like this type of era of Zenith, or I really like this. This is me going back to a flea market and going, hey, I want to.
And on the opposite end of that, one thing I would absolutely say to anyone getting into vintage is ignore hype.
Oh yes.
Like Universal Genève, the Paul Rouse, the
Guaranteed to
Pampi
be
dial,
overpricing.
C Masters.
Overpaying.
Yeah, just ignore all of that stuff. As soon as something becomes hype and everyone's after it, it's game over.
Yeah.
You're paying stupid money, unnecessary money for stuff, and there's just as much, just as nicer opportunities out there for sexy watches beyond whatever
I want
hype
to
is
start
happening.
searching this immediately.
No, but I would also.
But
I would also say to you is, if you can bring up your wonderful thing, I'm going to bring out another Zenith that hasn't. So these ones haven't had any hype around them, and now today they may have hype around them.
Well, while you're searching, do you have any rules? Because I have a couple of rules.
Go for it, yeah.
Just some basic ones. Like, obviously, buy the seller is the most important thing for me in vintage when you're spending over a point.
And this is what I got annoyed about with that chap on Houdinki Talking Watches who got called out for having a Frankenstein.
Yeah.
He didn't make the Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Call out the watch dealer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's watch dealers on TikTok who are openly and promoting the fact that they are creating Frankenstein. There's guys making content where one chap's walking around with a Datejust dial and he rips open another Datejust and just puts the dial in and just changes it up. That you've just and he's putting an aftermarket dial in.
Yeah.
That's not the buyer.
Yeah.
That's the dealer. And these are dealers who are globally recognised as good dealers.
Yeah.
And
And it's absolutely ridiculous.
But
And so call out the dealer. Don't
Eyes
call
open.
out the collector.
But it's also the other thing is start having a relationship with good dealers that will back up. That's the thing is, I totally agree with this. I totally agree with the nuts. The other side. This is something I wanted to bring up. This is called a Zenith Lemon, and it's a dive watch.
That colour's pretty punchy.
It is super punchy, ladder bracelet.
Good lord.
And
super legible.
but it comes in blue and it comes in other colours. But I love it.
What year is that from?
So this is I think mid-70s. But I freaking love these.
Yeah.
Now when I talk to you about sleepers and things like that, this on your wrist, it's like the blue one that you've got on your wrist now. You know what I mean? It's got that vibe. Now Zenith, I've just shown you 3 Zeniths that most people will go, oh, I've never seen that before.
I'd
Now
love
that is a Zenith watch.
Yeah.
More conventional case. If they did that in a more conventional case, that would be
Oh,
epic. That would be absolutely epic.
So what I would also say is dealers, social media is bad and sometimes good, okay? Why I'm saying bad and sometimes good is because you can see what the dealers have got in stock. You can see some things that they like, some things that they don't like, but also great people on social media. You know, we've talked about Owl, Old Watch Lady. She is amazing. She's got some of the coolest watches, and you see on her wrist. They give me a voyage of discovery. These rabbit holes. You know, you talk about expensive, like you talked about Rolexes and things like that. The Bart crown, the this crown, the this crown. You go, oh, it's underlined. It's this. It's this. It's that. All of those little things, no one else can see it, but they can see these.
Yeah.
They can see, if you really want to flex a vintage, you go for something odd.
And what annoys me about those little details of the Bart crown or dot over 90 and all these bits and pieces and the long chicken finger Rolex crowns, I feel it's just an excuse for people to charge a lot of money.
Yeah.
There's no substance behind it. One isn't necessarily better looking than another. Just because something's rare doesn't mean it's good. And it seems like what you just said there is absolutely spot on. No one's going to notice it unless you're there with the loop.
But everything's a paint job. A tropical dial is basically a mouldy dial in a lot of cases.
Or
a spider dial is a factory dial that is cracked due to malfunctioning.
And I'm so sceptical when people show on Instagram.
It's a paint job, but Mark, you're laughing, Marcus.
They've got a vintage watch and the loom on the dial perfectly matches, the patinaed loom on the dial perfectly matches the patinaed loom in the handset.
It's clearly dodgy.
It doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
They don't patina at the same rate.
But also, have you ever put a hot lamp over a dial? So we do this quite a lot for some of our watches.
To create condensation?
No, just to see how it ages.
Oh, really?
And you put a hot lamp and you see how some things
Basically,
age.
it cooks it.
Well, yeah, but it's and you put it for 24 hours, and it just changes certain colours or
Dulls
does
things down.
And so we did it on a GMT recently, where we did the bezel, and I did something. I left one out in the hot sun for ages and ages and ages. This was a new bezel, and it faded, but in a beautiful way. But the dial didn't fade because
What you said, Adrian.
So this is where certain things don't work. Just what I would also say is gut. Trust your
I had a
gut.
point about gut.
You know, the thing is, we all have this gut. It's the feel of the person. Look at social media. Ask other people on that social media thing. You know, do you know? Tell me more. You know, go into questioning other people that have said, hey, I really love my such and such. Go and ask. Go and feel the gut. And if they're good, and if you point out, and this is the other thing, I've had one or two dealers that have been amazing. There's an amazing guy that and why I keep my dealers very close is, and I don't give their names out because I trust them. I'm not telling you to trust them. And that's the thing is, I don't say trust anyone in the industry. Do whatever you want. Do you. But the thing about this guy was, I said to him, this is wrong and this is wrong. He said, don't worry, I'll take it back. And that's called a very good dealer.
Yeah. I think the other thing I do with dealers when I do buy vintage is, and it's a bit of sometimes they get annoyed. I'm like, take a photo of it right now, in daylight. Because the thing is, you
have a beautiful photograph, and
no, I want literally. Sometimes I even ask for proof that it's today. Like, can you just take a picture of it, like with a newspaper or whatever? Like, I want to see it in the condition. And James Stacey says this on Grey NATO, which I love as a fellow bit of advice: is you just want to see it as it's going to arrive. Take a picture of it exactly how it's going to arrive.
That's a really good point.
And when I heard him say that, I'm like, that's so I'm not the only one that annoys the dealers, because I'm like, I don't know, I've seen the pictures. They're like, what do you mean you've seen the pictures? I'm like, yeah, I've seen the pictures.
But they've been retouched.
Inside a light box.
Yeah, exactly.
Where there's even light, which allows certain things to recess and other things to. Just take a picture. Just take a snap of it right now.
Or wrist roll.
Go and get it out of the. Take it. And they're like, oh, I'll just resend you the pictures. And no, I've seen those ones.
Yeah.
And
Do me a wrist roll today.
And you will get an instant feeling. If they're like, yeah, no problem, here it is, I'll just get it out of the safe and take it right now. And then 2 minutes later, you get photos of the safe in the background and stuff. It's like, okay, cool. And I then know that's how it's going to arrive to me. It's really simple, but the most heartbreaking, or the things where your gut just drops, are when you've seen pictures. And it's natural to want pictures that make a watch look good. Don't do that in vintage. Get the worst possible pictures you can. Because when you get
And it's got
a
dinks
watch,
and it's got
well,
dents.
it just doesn't look the same. You're kind of like, hang on a second, and you realise that there's been manipulation or that it's just been shot in one of those white light boxes that is never reflected in real life. A watch never looks like it does in one of those boxes.
You may have got one of my watches that's got dents all over it.
Well, certainly, if I ever bought anything of you, I'd expect it to be fucked.
I want to bring something up because I think age is sometimes a good thing. Don't try and look
I'm
for...
proof of that. We're all proof of that.
I love that you talk in that way, but don't think about looking at a watch. I always loved when Ralph Lauren, back in the day, would have distressed this, and you know, it was that pre-looking thing. The thing is, so I'm going to show you. This is a Girard-Perregaux, and it's called a gyroscopic, I think it is called.
Deep diver.
A deep diver. Now, for me, this is a. You talk about a sage dial. I would say it's a grey dial, but this inspired the Laureato, and yeah,
well,
the bezel. If you look at the bezel,
dodecahedron bezel,
and this was one of the inspirations behind it. This is not. Firstly, if you can find it on the internet, hallelujah. But this I bought for about £1,000. Now, why I'm saying to you about a price, like with the Zenith watch, and what I say to you is like with the Zenith watches, you can pick up some great watches at not big prices from major brands.
Yeah.
So don't think, oh, I can't afford this because I can't do this, or you think about it and you can pick up, and this looks absolutely stunning. And it's a great watch. Internal rotating bezel. This is such a cool watch. Look at the hands. And if you looked at the original advertising, you would go, yeah, I want to be in that swimming costume and I want to be...
I said to you as soon as I saw this, I'm like, hang on a second. What colour was this dial originally?
It was blue.
See, that's nuts.
It was a blue dial.
Because it is so evenly faded to this lovely
But
sage.
the thing is, the blue dial was a bit more expensive. So a good blue dial one was a bit more expensive. So I went, this is how much I'm going to spend.
Sat in the sun. And actually the hands are so oxidized, like they're barely hanging together. It's so cool.
So the great thing about this is don't think that you have to mortgage the house to get into vintage. That's my thing, is you can get some major watches from major brands and go and explore. That's one of the things.
Well, can I just point out, Daz, our audio engineer, he just jumped in as we were fixing something on the set and said, I've been Googling. So you guys have been talking. And currently, there are some Zenith models at £340 that are very similar. So this is contemporaneous right now. What we're saying is true.
Yeah. No, look, honestly,
current market value.
Honestly,
is...
but then the other thing is, the discovery is such a cool thing with vintage. I'm gonna just quickly do a.
Pulled that out from behind you.
I'm gonna do a quick story because this is something. This is a brand I'm looking to try and find. So do DM me if you have a good working one of these. The LCDs are always a bitch and a half. So. Nipro that did for the Jaguar XJS.
Oh, look.
And look at this, and they also did the first digital at an angle blue digital Nipro watch. This for me is a brand I've been trying to find because I love this. As like the Casquette, that when we did the Casquette beforehand. What I mean is, when we did the Casquette, no one was looking at the Casquette. They thought it was the ugly watch.
For the people that...
Girard-Perregaux Casquette.
Is a watch that you also worked with them on?
Yeah.
How?
I did the only watch, forged carbon and titanium watch. And it was something that I absolutely love, the Casquette. And it was this digital watch.
And it's this sort of aperture effect. Yeah. So looking at it top down, you don't realise that it has this car driving away effect. However, when it's on your wrist like this, you're going to be looking at it
and it's got a cowl and it's quite a cool thing. But Nipro were some of the forefront on the digital watch, on this Swiss watch doing digital. Now, so where I'm saying to you is, you can be crazy.
So help George with his latest bear hunt.
No, but it's you can find watches and not a fortune. You can find discoveries.
Would you buy that if you find it not working?
No. And the reason why I wouldn't is because LCDs are a pain in the arse, and there's a very good person in Australia that has that, that can do it. But most mechanical watches, I would buy if it doesn't work. I would buy it, but I would get a discount and a half if I was going to do that. But why I'm saying to you, so Breitling, something like that, you know, why I'm going through some vintage with you is because you think of this case, this is not a Navitimer. This is not in that world, but it's still Breitling. It's still cool. I don't know how much these are worth nowadays, but when I picked this up,
recognise that's Breitling because of your watches like your Deus Ex Machina Top Time, which bring back that surfboard centre section.
It's called the surfboard. But what I would say to you is, what I like about this is, you know that this movement has fitted in some Tag Heuers and some other watches because of that angle of how it is. So I look at that and I think
Crown.
Destro Crown. And so these things, I'm going to say is, you think on Adrian's wrist, it should be a Bark and Jack strap, but Adrian's wrist, it pops. Now, this is the thing with vintage. Now, can I say to you is, I've just noticed in these lights, because these lights are beautiful, the sub-hands and the hands on the watch are different colours. This is going back to your thing of aging. Because of how close they are to the crystal, things have aged in different ways. So that for me is one of the other thing I want to slightly. You talk about elephant in the room. The servicing is the elephant in the room. But the other thing is, when someone goes to you and says, "It's got box and papers," bullshit. Okay. The thing about box and papers, I'd love to say that is the thing. It adds 2,000 or 3,000 or 4,000 or 5,000 or whatever onto the price of the watch. Most of them, and I've been to places that have spare boxes, have papers. Most watches, most owners of watches, you are an owner of a watch. Do you keep the box and papers? Because most people don't. They go, great, wonderful. That's out of the door, because you can't store the box and papers.
I've literally got an attic full of boxes.
You have, but you understand the value of them.
But this is a very important point that George is making. Is that a lot of people put far too much financial value, but also authenticity value in box and papers. They feel like, oh, it's got box and papers, therefore it must be real. No, if someone can create a fake watch, then they can make a fake piece of paper with some printing on it. It's not difficult. The building the fake watch is difficult.
At length about that, the Italian place that you went to.
Exactly. And if someone says
the paper.
There's no papers but there's box, cool. So that box isn't the original box. It might be period correct, but it isn't the original box. There's absolutely no situation where someone will have kept the box but not the papers. So they do take all that stuff with a pinch of salt and always focus on condition over box and papers.
And I love what you just said earlier was, take photographs instantly.
Ask them to just do it.
Because that is something that you can't bullshit a camera. And you can retouching, but otherwise. Look, I want to kind of round it up, because what I want to say to anyone on this is try and be. Andrew has got some amazing do's and don'ts. Adrian has got some amazing do's and don'ts. Try not to be totally like me, that goes into this vintage world and goes, oh my God, I love this, I love this, I love this. But the other thing is, don't go for what people are talking about today. I look at things like, I remember collecting a Silverstone. People, I think it was just after the Silverstone re-edition, and people were going, oh, I don't like it, why would you buy it? Why? And I look at that dial and I look at the watch, and I picked it for nothing. Now, you are going to ask the prices, I can't remember, but I remember buying this.
Look at that Fume dial, look at that galvanic Fume.
And you go to yourself and you wear this, like this is, could you imagine with a linen suit with that on your wrist? I mean, screw every other watch, that's beautiful. And it's
Another Destro, look at that. Must be would it be the same movement?
Could be. Yeah. Or hey, you country vibe.
I think that's the same movement, because look at the subdial position as well.
So, George, I'm obsessed with this
It needs a proper strap, but
Gorgeous.
Le Marnier single push chronograph. This inspired the B347 for me on the single push chronograph because I loved single push chronographs. And I just love this. This is such a great thing. Military dial, and it is such a cool watch. And you can see this. Now this...
Call that a mil-spec watch, George?
It is a military watch.
It's a military watch.
One of the Dirty Dozen?
Yeah, well, you see, because it's got the triangle. Now, this is the thing. So when you go to yourself and say, Submariners or these things that have got all these things on, you can find military watches in multiple ways for not much. So the thing is, if you really want to go down the military side, don't worry. Don't think, oh my God, I need to buy this or this. You can get a military watch that people go, oh, wow. You think of even Bremont's got some wonderful modern military watches. You know, you've got this thing with military watches. So that's my kind of 2 cents on all of these things. Don't bet the house. Don't go and think, oh, and don't also, you know, I'm very lucky. I'm telling you about some of my successes. I've got a drawer full of...
It would almost be a more interesting episode.
Well, you spoke about your GMT that
Yeah, no, but what I'm saying to you is I am talking about my successes on, hey, I brought it for this much and it's worth this much.
Yeah.
They are not, you know, the things are successes. It's only a success when you come to sell it. And that is the other thing is enjoy it, love it, and wear it. And then you will impart it with its own kind of voyage of your life. And you will pass this on to your children or family or someone. And that is what I love about watches, is that you can imagine my son going, I remember Daddy wearing that Audi Sports Hoya. I want that because I remember this because it was such a happy watch. That's the thing that I love.
I agree with Adrian. This is something special.
It
Okay.
is, because it was issued.
Can I ask you for a BYOI?
Yeah, so based on this topic, a mate of mine, I'll call him a mate. I've been following
You have mates?
this a couple, not many. So my BYOY is a mate of mine, a chap I've been following in the watch world for a long time.
This is his room.
And this is his little office. So this is called Kibble Watches, and the chap who runs it's called James Kibble. Now, I've been following him for probably about 10 years, and he started off on YouTube talking about his journey of buying Seikos off eBay for about 5-10 quid, cleaning them up, taking better photographs, and then selling them on eBay for about 15-20 quid. He now sells, he still does the low-end stuff like the Seikos, but he also does Lange, Patek, and he's worked his way up by doing up these little watches, and he's now this legit
Look
dealer.
at this, Smith,
That's your
jumping a funky...
But what I love about James is that this is a genuine watch dealer as opposed to the typical Instagram dealers.
Seiko.
No, wait. A Movada Zenith gold-plated manual
thought
wine,
you'd like it, George.
£395. Look at that!
But this is the point.
That's hot.
I mean, like, £395? I mean...
In gold.
Why are you still talking? This is where I'm living. I mean, like...
But they are stunning. This
look at
is what he
that.
does now.
Oh, George is gone.
Look at that.
This is actually very appropriate for this
Look
discussion.
at this buzzsaw.
Wow.
Universal Geneva.
Unisonic.
And so this is a buzzsaw dial. Oh my God, I'm obsessed with this.
Those indexes.
Oh my God. Oh, wow.
But he's just one chap, and he's
You're going to take a picture of that.
he's based in
I'm
London.
definitely taking a
And
photograph of that one.
He's a good guy.
That is just something I have never seen before, and I'm obsessed. Oh, wow.
But what I love about James
I
is
feel
his
like
journey.
he's a real collector as well.
He's a true collector.
Oh,
and
James, I want to meet you.
But he grafted it, and he did so against all odds
From the bottom.
because he used to work in retail in watches, and he'd always lose his job because there'd always be a conflict of interest
Yeah.
because he wanted to be a watch dealer, and so he'd go from job to job to try and build things up. And now he's doing this shit, and he's
It's a wildly diverse mix.
he's done it.
I like your eye. I think you and I need to have a bit of a kind of... Look, and this is the thing. When you look at his website, you've got 2 price points.
I like that.
Go for the under 2,000. Go for that. I'd love to say go for the over. I'm sure there's some amazing things in the over, but I showed you the under because I think
that's
is
the
the best
yeah.
place to play.
So
because
so
you
many
get
interesting
bang for your
bits.
buck, but you get some crazy things. That that Buzzsaw watch was $1,200 or £300. I can't remember. My brain's not working on. But that wrist flex is absolutely amazing.
But I just think I think it's a cool journey that he's gone on to go from doing what he's done to then do the expensive
Even one
shit.
of those, the Aquatimers, you know, from IWC, they're just amazingly made watches. And if you go, that's a Camaro. That's like a Camaro case on the long sheet. Anyway,
But it's good chat, and yeah, check him out.
Andrew, what winds you up?
I tell you what winds me up.
Getting old.
Some space. No. It's working out well for me, Adrian.
Not wearing
It
a
is,
watch?
to be fair, you're in a far better condition than I am.
Yeah, and me.
Sorry to hit you back there, but no, it's okay. It's better than I expected. That triggers me because what winds me up. Oh, it's starting to rise. I'm picturing the scene. You walk
Steam's
into a
coming out.
get-together. You walk into a group of watch enthusiasts. When 80% of those watches are modern Rolexes, I usually just leave.
Yeah.
You're just like,
There is nothing there for me. What conversation do I have? If I walked into a room with Kibble watches inventory on say there was a person wearing every one of those watches, I'm going to stay there until they kick me out.
Yeah.
My love for watches flames up like a fucking bushfire. I'm like, oh yes. Tell me about that weird Zenith Movado. Hey, stop, you're wearing my Darth Turtle. That's the best Seiko ever. Hey, wait a second. What the hell is that Omega? What is that? Oh my gosh, there's a Camaro.
When you have to say, what is that? That is the magic
I'm in
thing.
heaven.
Yes.
Or I'm taking a photograph. I took a photograph of one of the watches in there because I
I
hadn't
walk
seen
into
it.
a room and there's 80% modern Rolexes.
There's only one
the
conversation.
Train Spotters convention.
And that is, did you buy it at retail?
Yeah.
Exactly,
That's
and
the
that's what the
only
conversation
question.
is. What
Yeah.
did you pay for it?
How long
Who's
did-
your connection?
how long did you have to wait?
How long did you have to wait?
It's boring.
Fuck it. That's what winds me up. If you want to get wound up properly, if you want your watch to be wound, do you feel me? Do you guys
Yes.
both feel me? I know you do, because I'm turning into you, because I saw that Buzzsaw. If someone wore that at a get-together, I am going to stand with them until they get sick of me asking questions.
Honestly, I'm
and
going to be humping their leg.
You're humping Kibble. Kibble's got a hump coming.
I mean, like, Kibble, I'm now like...
Coming at ya.
You are my Kibble.
But see, how many dealers have interesting inventory?
Yeah,
Kibble
exactly,
does.
exactly, yeah.
That's a great shout.
There is-
I thought
there
that
is-
was a bit of a
there
shitty
is-
BYOI to begin with. I'm like, dude, you can't bring a second-hand dealer.
Look, honestly, his sofa, I was like, really? What the hell have you bought us?
I know.
I was like, this is his office. But now I'm like, I want to go and hang out. I want to be on that sofa.
You went from deeply unimpressed to just like the biggest heart on. I could feel it under the table. The table lifted.
I thought it worked. The table lifted.
It did. Sorry, George. But look, the winder is also a way that we can wind you up. We can wind you up. We can count the number of times we wind you up. This is a masterpiece by Wolf. Wolf only do one thing, and that's very reassuring in this world, isn't it? When suddenly everyone's doing a watch winder. We don't claim, by the way, because our brand is on this, to have anything to do with it. We've just taken their favourite winder of ours, one that is actually chargeable, one that you can take with you on trips. So
Legitimately
it's
good
not their
looking.
most mobile one. Or you can just look at our faces spinning.
Freaking cool. So look, I want to say thank you so much for liking and subscribing to us. We have a podcast that we've spoken about, and I want to say we're out, guys.
Yes.
This has been awesome.
It's been fun.
That's great. Thanks, Georgie.
See you guys soon.